Good afternoon and greetings everybody, and welcome here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of music. So here we go with our Wednesday night favorites. This is an episode that I've been working on for about 3 or 4 weeks now. It's surprising how many albums are out there. Like, there are thousands of albums that have come out in this century. Literally. And I went through the list of everything that I could find, plus I went through the list of all the bands I like, have been listening to, and I pulled out about 70 albums. But ultimately I decided that 30 was enough to do. Anything more than that, unless it's a concise thing, it doesn't make much sense to do. So it took me a while. It took me a long while to decide on these 30 albums. I had a list. I went through it, but it was taking too long, so I did the Deep Purple one last week. But I decided that I was going to continue with this and sort it into... So what I have is I have 30 albums, plus I have some honorable mentions, which I'll mention, of course, at the end. But I picked out the 30 albums that I think are the albums I like the best that came out this century, with the only stipulation is that I wouldn't do more than 3 albums from any given band, and I stuck to that. And that meant, for me at least, a couple of albums didn't make the list because of that, and they probably could have easily made the list, but I decided that once you mentioned a band and you talked a couple of their albums, it doesn't make sense to keep going on about their albums. Best to give some other bands some attention, and so that's what I've decided. So the only limitation here is 3 albums per band at the most, and I think it's pretty good. I think there's maybe 5 groups here that have 2 or more albums, so you're still getting a very wide range of different music and groups here that really will add to it. So yeah, like I said, this is one of the longest prep videos I've ever had to do. Almost as long as the Judas Priest metal one that I did, which took me a fairly lengthy time. This one took almost as much time. I would say this is going to be about an hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour long. Probably took me 8 times that, 8 hours or so to get this all together. So anyways, how I'm going to do this is the way I normally do it. I'm just going to rank the albums according from my least favorite album of them to my most favorite album of them. I think I have about 2/3 of these albums actually own them. The other ones I've either owned at other parts of time, or I've been listening to, or I've had some dealings with them at some point or another. So we have, like I said, 30 of them, and I'll give some honorable mentions to some albums that I didn't quite make the list, and I'll explain why they didn't make the list when I get to it. So, I guess that's about it. I don't think there's any other piece of information, only to tell you, as I always reiterate, that these are just my opinions of the albums based on my time with them. You know, it doesn't mean that they're the best albums that came out this year, and there's many albums that I think are very good albums that will be very good albums for me, but I just haven't got around to listening to them or purchasing them or being involved with them, and a lot of groups with a lot of really good stuff. So anyways, we're going to start now with let's keep my glasses at close hand in case I need them. Even setting this up took some time to get it ready. So, like I said, we have 30 albums. I'm going to, I've got most of the props for this. So we're going to start with number 30. So for me, I decided on this album being the last one because I've listened to it in its entirety twice, and I like it, even though it's not really what I'm used to from this guy. But I think it's got to be in here, and it's also going to be in next month's series, and so I thought this would give me another chance to get into it. So the album is from probably my favorite rock musician, or one of my favorite rock musicians for sure, and that's Geddy Lee, and his album which came out in 2001, called My Favorite Headache. It's the only studio album he's ever done. And, I got to give some attention to this album because of my absolute loving for this individual and the band in which he is a major part of. So, My Favorite Headache, number 30. Number 29 comes from a band that I've discovered about a year and a bit ago. Very psychedelic in their nature, and they're an instrumental band. There's no live, there's no vocals to their music, but I do like their instrumentation very much. They may be one of my favorite just strictly instrumental bands, and they're very psychedelic. And of course, we know we're talking about Ozric Tentacles. The album I chose was The Yum Yum Tree, so it's coming in at number 29. Released in 2009, and I believe it's their 12th studio album. It's a very good album, I think. I've only had an opportunity to listen to it in its entirety just once, but I've listened to bits and pieces of it over that period of time as well. Don't quite own it yet, but this is a band that's been a little bit difficult to find stuff from, but it's getting easier now. The people that I buy my stuff off, I've been getting some of their stuff in, so I'm hoping to get more of it. Next up, number 28. I do have a prop for this one. You're the One, Paul Simon. Now, do I think this is one of his best albums? No, not necessarily, but for this century, it was a good album. I liked it. It's typical Paul Simon album, very kind of folky in a lot of ways. Excellent album, though. I love Paul Simon. He's very much a background type of vocalist for me. When I'm doing stuff around the house, I like to put him on. He puts me in the right mood to clean and to focus on what I'm doing. I feel more relaxed with it, and I like this album. It's an album that came out in the year 2000. It's his 10th studio album. So You're the One from Paul Simon comes in at number 28. And I'm going to put them here as we go along so I won't forget. Next one up is an album I've listened to its entirety once, and I've been periodically pulling it out and listening to a track here or there, just trying to get myself into it. This is definitely an album that requires some time from me. It's very electronic sounding, but also very spacey, which is a common thing with this band. For number 27, we have Hawkwind's Onward album. Kind of a bit of a darker album. I love the artwork on this and the back cover on it too. Yeah, it looks almost like apocalyptic, eh? So this was released in 2012 as their 27th studio album, and they've had 3 or 4 more since then. So they're very prolific, have been very prolific in their music right from the start. They've never slowed down even for a moment. The next one is from a band that is one of my favorite bands of all time. I like a lot of their early stuff a lot. This album has begun to grow on me a little bit. I've listened to it its entirety a few times. I've had it for a while. I actually had 2 copies of it. Got rid of one. Sorry, I should have got maybe rid of the other one. This one's it's got what I call sticker tape glue on it. I never really did any kind of thing to get rid of that. I just kind of worked on it a bit, but I've watched the Brendan Snyder video on how to get the glue off, so I might do that with all my albums. So this one is number 26 from AC/DC, Black Ice. Yeah, a return to that Back in Black look almost, right? So this is from 2006. It's their 16th studio album. Next up comes a person that some people will be laughing that they're even on this thing. This particular album, I wouldn't venture to put any of the other albums that they've done on here. Not that I have anything wrong with them. My daughter is a big fan of this individual and their music, but their music doesn't suit this channel. This album, however, the debut album of Miley Cyrus, Breakout, I like it. It's poppy, yes, but it also has some kind of power pop on here too. There's 2 or 3 songs on here pretty heavy for for a person like this. And this is the only album I would consider for this channel because of the nature of the album. This is their first debut album for her as an individual artist. She did do some stuff with Hannah Montana, of course, before that, but this one's her debut album. This came out in 2008. I can't believe it's been like 15 years since this came out. But it is a great album. Lots of poppy, heavy power pop stuff on here. It's kind of a rockin' album. And I got into it a lot because this was my daughter's album of choice for a couple of years, and so I had to listen to it all the time, and I actually grew to like it. So it's my number 25 album. Number 24 is an album by a band that's much loved by me. This is a much later in their catalog album. The album cover, of course, is absolutely fantastic. I think it's one of their best album covers. It's got that heavy metal sound to it, like so many of their albums, but this one's got, because of the way that they've gone, this one's pretty speed metalish in some areas as well. So we're talking about Redeemer of Souls from Judas Priest. This is an album I'm growing to like even more as I've listened to it a few times now. From 2014, this is their 17th studio album. When I did the Judas Priest videos for metal, I listened to this entire album. I thought, wow, I never thought this was going to be that good, but it's quite good. If you want to see more about that, you can go back and look at my metal on Judas Priest, featuring Judas Priest, and you can see a little bit about this album there as well. So Judas Priest coming in at number 24, 2014, 17th album by them. Okay, this album, I had a kind of a mixed feeling about this album. At first, I really loved it, but it kind of gave me a funny feeling about it. I don't even know what it was. I still don't really know what it was. Actually, I jumped ahead here. Sorry. So the next album up is Nothing Is Easy, live at the Isle of Wight for Jethro Tull. It's a live album from 2004. I don't own it. I have listened to it its entirety a couple of times. It's an album I'm searching for. Like when I go out, sometimes I look through the live stuff from different bands just so I can see if I can find the ones I've listened to before. And this is definitely one of those albums that needs to be gotten. So number 23, Jethro Tull's Live at the Isle of Wight, Nothing Is Easy album. The next one up is also an album I do not own. I got a little ahead of myself on that one. I do not own, but definitely an album I would like to own. I've heard its entirety at least once, while I was doing something trying to decide what to do for metal one night. I listened to this entire album. Thought, well, I could do these guys, but I think it would be a long and an arduous thing. So we're talking, of course, about Iron Maiden. The album I've chose is from 2006, their 14th studio album, A Matter of Life and Death. Another really good release by them. They just keep plugging along, making such fantastic stuff. The next one up is the album that I had in my hand and realized I didn't have the other two and had jumped over it by accident. So the next one up was from the last studio album from these guys, released in 2003, their 17th studio album. And this is Say You Will from Fleetwood Mac. This is actually heavy. For Fleetwood Mac, this is a very heavy album. Oh, sorry. Is that upside right? No, it is upside right. Some of them are upside down. Some of the wording is upside down. But the album is right side up. The only thing about it is there's no Christine McVie on this album. That kind of bothers me a bit. And I found this a bit of a dark album, too, for some reason. But some real heavy rock and stuff on here. A couple of tunes just really killer. And this was on my playlist for a while. But I do like it. And it's going to come in here today at number 21. Number 20. It's an album I've listened to its entirety maybe 2 or 3 times. I like it. I just don't like it as much as I thought I would, and maybe it takes a little bit longer to penetrate it because it's a little more involved. Concept album, I guess, for Styx called The Mission, released in 2017. It's their 16th studio album. It's good. It's a good album. Took a bit to get used to it, though. I think the music is really good, though, and I think as I listen to it more, it'll probably grow on me too. So that's where are we here? Number 20, Styx' 2017 16th studio album, The Mission. Next up is an album that I did on Metal. Well, actually, I did the group on Metal. They had two albums. I did review them as one of my newer metal bands, and that's the Cellar Darlings. I do like this Grant band quite a bit. And this particular album I like the most. This is The Sound, is the name of the album. Released in 2017. It's their second studio album. Okay, next up is another album I don't own, but I've listened to its entirety a couple of times. I really like this band, and it's my mission to add them as being a serious band that I want to get into, and that's Echoline. Sorry. The album is Me. Released 2002. It's their 7th studio album. It's coming in here at number 18. Next up is an album by a band that I only recently discovered while I was putting this together, and I listened to this I picked out one of their albums and listened to it maybe 2 or 3 times. I really like this album, so much so that it's already up at number 17, and that's Changes from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard from 2022, their 23rd studio album in less than 10 years. Yeah, they're prolific, no doubt about it. Next up is a band that I bought this album. You know, sometimes I'm guilty of this. I buy albums based on the album covers and people's recommendations without ever having listened to them, and this was one of them. Yes, this is The Flower Kings by Royal Decree, their 16th studio album, released in, well, actually it's their 15th studio album, and I forgot to write the year that it was released, but I think it was, where's my glasses now? I just had them here. I think this was not very long ago, though. And of course, you know how these things are. They don't really. I think this one, it says 2022, but I think it was a little older than that. But it could be 2022. Their 17th studio album, or sorry, their 15th studio album by Royal Decree, The Flower Kings. I really like this stuff. Sometimes their music is there's a lot of it on every album. Like they just go on, but I love the album cover. It's one of my favorite covers. I think the music is really good. I think they probably have better albums, and I will get into those. But for now, this one definitely on my playlist right now and doing well from the Flower Kings. Next up is another band that's more of a modern type progressive rock time, but not too modern. They came out in the 90s. This is the particular album by them that I bought first, and I like this one a lot, and they have other albums by them that I'm getting into now, but this one was the one I liked. Porcupine Trees, Lightbulb Sun, and it was released in the year 2000. It's their 6th studio album. It's coming in at number 15. Very good album. Lots of stuff on here. This Steven Wilson stuff. He's in this, so the big important. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. The next one up is by a band that I've gotten into in the last year. I've done. I bought an album of theirs. I've been listening to them. I did a metal series on them. This is Fate's Warning, and the album I've chosen, they had other ones, but I chose this one because it's the one I'm most familiar with, but I like it quite a bit. Long Day, Good Night, Fate's Warning, 2020. It's their 13th studio album. This is a band, for me, has the potential to be one of my favorite metal bands, and I just think they're fantastic. Okay, next up, number 13. This is an album that takes quite a bit of flack and is not considered to be a great album for various reasons. I get the reasons why people don't like it. I'm not one of those people. and I won't let it be swayed. I won't be swayed by it. I do like this a lot. This is Yes's Fly From Here. First of all, it's got one of the best album covers of any of their albums, I think. I love, but I'm partial to yellow and green. Those are two colors I like a lot. It's got enough of all those colors in here that it really attracted me. I like Benoit David's vocals on this. I think he's very good. And this has like a lot of other elements that I like about it. Trevor Horn produced this, and it's just so. It does have some tracks on here that they dragged up that didn't make those albums back in the day, but I like them. They're good. You know, at least we're getting them now instead of them just disappearing into history. This is from 2011, their 20th studio album, Fly From Here from Yes, and it comes in at number 13 on my list. The next one up I don't own. I did listen to it. It was part of one of the band battles that Ben gave me. That was the first time I listened to it. I listened to it a few times during that series, and it really, really captured me. I've been looking for it. I bought a few other things by him as a result of looking for this one, but I do like this a lot. It's Red Planet from Rick Wakeman from 2020, and don't ask me what number studio album it is. I tried to count it out. It's just too difficult to figure out, and then nobody gave me a number for it, and they probably didn't want to do it either, so they just left it. So number 12, The Red Planet by Rick Wakeman. The rest of these albums are substantial to me. From this point on, these are albums I've listened to a lot and I like a lot. The first one is the first one of these. Comes in at number 11. It's the 23rd studio album from 2021 of this band, Jethro Tull. Album cover withstanding. Great album. I think the music was written to fit his vocals so well. I did do a video on this as a new release when it came out. Back in those days, so I'm not sure if I called it new release or recent album release. I'm not sure what I called it back then, but this is excellent album. The music was written to fit his vocal range for now. That's been people's complaints, that his vocal range has changed. Yeah, he's damaged his vocals, so he can't really do what he used to do, but this is still really good. A really good album. One of my favorites of that year. So Jethro Tull's Zealot Gene coming in here at number 11, did I say? Yeah, number 11. Number 10, this probably should have been higher, but it hasn't done as well for me after the fact that once I took it out of my playlist, it wasn't as well. It took a ton of time for this album to even interest me. I got this the year it came out, and I never really listened to it much until like 2 or 3 years ago. So, but once I got into it, I really like it a lot, and of course it's Clockwork Angels from Rush. It's a bit of a concept album. Coming here at number 10. This is their 19th and final studio album, the last one they'll ever do, by Rush. It's funny that if you look at the hands here, they're 21-12, right? A hand at 9, that's 21, and in the army or the military clock, and it's at just past 2 here, so it's 12. This is 21-12, their final album, but it's called Clockwork Angels. Released in 2012. No surprise there. They really know how to do things the right way. This is a great way to end a career. Fantastic album coming here at number 10, Clockwork Angels. Next up, another album from a band I like, and this album, fairly new to me. I've listened to it. I've owned it for a while, but I've only listened to it maybe 5 or 6 times, and it's already up here. I think it's very good. Definitely going to be a top album for me in months and years to come. It's not quite ready to go on the playlist yet, but its turn is really close. And we're talking about Dwellers of the Deep from Wobbler, who's a band I really like a lot. Maybe one of my favorite bands that have come out this century. Norwegian band, of course. This album was released in 2020. It's their last studio album at this point. Their 5th studio album as well. I'm hoping for a lot more from these guys. I wish they would do one every year, but it might take a while to get them there. The new vocalist is much better than the original guy. He's more prominent, and I think it really adds a great deal to him. I expect this will end up being one of my favorite of their albums by the time it's all said and done. So number 9, Dwellers of the Deep, Wobbler. Next one up is pretty much the same kind of story as that one. A band I discovered by Ben. He gave me an album challenge of one of their albums. I really liked it, and I started looking for it. And of course, it's not easy to find, so I ended up with 2 other ones by them. And this one is is about ready to go on my playlist as well. I really like it. I've listened to it a half dozen times already. It's not even in the playlist, and I'm already listening to it a lot, taking it with me in the car and listen to it and everything. And that's The Seventh House by IQ. This one released in 2000, so it's a bit of an older album for this list, but it's right at the cusp, so it got in there. It's their 8th studio album, coming in at number 8. Perfect. And I love the album cover, the color scheme. I like the back. It's really good too. Yeah. So every track on here is good. IQ's Seventh House. Next up is an album that really brought Rush really back for me, right to the forefront. They were already had gotten their way to the point where they were my favorite band again, but I had been just listening to a lot of their older stuff, and this one really brought their new stuff. This was the beginning of their new stuff bringing in this. I just love this album. Rush's Snakes and Arrows. There's so many good tracks on here. I don't listen to it as much. I think I kind of played it so much when I first got it back in 2007 that I kind of wore it out a bit. I'll be frankly honest with you. But it's still so good. I love the production on here. Just love the album altogether. It was their 18th studio album, released in 2007. Rush's Snakes and Arrows, coming in at number 7. Okay, I'm missing one. Oh no, I don't own this one. There's another Rush album coming in at number 6. This one's a live one though. Rocking in Rio. I really have watched. This has been. Most people know that I don't really watch or listen to music much on the internet. If I can at all avoid it, I try to listen to my albums. But this one, I love the videos for this. I listen to the entire thing, and it's one of my go-to videos, which I watch quite a bit. At least once a week there for a while. I was watching it all the time, and I've looked to get this album. Of course, it's Rocking in Rio, the live album from Rush, released in 2004. Such a good album. So much so I liked it even better than Snakes and Arrows, and so I had to put it here in number 6. So Rush has 3 in here, all in the top 10, but all at the lower end of the top 10. So the next 5 are really, to me, the cream of the cream. These are all. So now you've gone from very good albums. Now you've jumped up to fantastically great albums. I like them all. And none of them have reached the masterpieces for me yet, but they're all close. They're all within striking distance. And the first one we're going to do is number 5 on the list, the 11th studio album, released in 2006 by The Who, Endless Wire. And the good part about this album is it also comes with a second Live at Lyon CD, which I've watched a lot. I just absolutely love this album. When it first came out, I was so happy. I didn't think The Who would ever release anything else, so I thought, I'll just have to deal with that and listen to what I got, which was all good. But this one is so good. I'm so glad I got this. When it first came out, it was along with Snakes and Arrows and Jethro Tull's Songs from the Wood and Animals from Pink Floyd. Those are the 4 albums. I had them in my car. I play them all the time, all 4 of them. So this one comes in at number 5. Number 4 is an album that you've seen me talk about before. I did a look back at a classic rock on album not too long ago on it. I think the artwork on it is fantastic. It's a debut album for this band, their first album, released in 2005 from Hinterland. The album is Hinterland from Wobbler again. I love these guys. I love this album. There's just every track on here is just so good. It's one of my go-to albums. Whenever I go out, I take this album with me a lot of times to listen to it. Still on my playlist, still doing well on my playlist. So Wobbler's Hinterland coming in there at number 4. Number 3, this is the second album on this list for them. They just did one recently that I just did, and we're talking about The Who's self-titled album. The album cover's a little quirky, kind of a 60-ish style, I guess. Songs are fantastic, though. It's even better than Endless Wire. I didn't think it was possible. I thought, it's a kind of a one-hit thing, and then they just never did anything for so long again. So I thought, well, then I can do it. And then I heard they're coming out with this, and I bought it. I love this. It's got that classic Who sound. There's some poppy stuff, some heavy stuff. Roger sounds actually better on this album than he did on Endless Wire. And I think this is just well crafted work. It's so good. This is their 12th. Imagine The Who only has 12 studio albums. It's hard to believe, right? Released 2018, just like 4 or 5 years ago. Really good. Fantastic. Coming in number 3. This is probably it for The Who. I don't think you're going to see. They may do another studio album, but I don't think they're going to tour anymore. They've already said they're done touring. You know, they're in their 70s. Some people aren't the Stones, right? Next up, the top 2 albums. The next one up, I decided to put it ahead of The Who's album just because I just think it's a heavier album and it's more like what I want to hear from this band. It's a little bit better. It's just by a hair this wins. Crash of the Crown from Styx. One of my favorite bands of all times, and they come back with this heavy weight. My only complaint, and you've heard me say this, is that the songs are a little shorter. I'd like maybe them just drag it out just a little bit longer with some of the tracks. I don't think there's anything here over 3 minutes. And there might be one over that. I'm not sure. Can't see without my glasses, and I'm not putting them on just to see that. So Crash of the Crown, Styx's 2021 album, their 17th studio album, number 2. Fantastic album. If you haven't listened to this and you're a Styx fan, you're missing something. You gotta get it. You gotta listen to it. Fantastic. Next up, easily my number 1 album. It wasn't really, when I decided to do this, I knew right away this was going to be my favorite album. It's been in my playlist for a very long time. Only recently came out of it. And I just love every track on it. I love the kind of sound they have that's kind of got some 70-ish feel to it and brings back another band I really love. But yet they've taken it onto a different level in different ways with a lot of modern sounds to their music. And this one is just so good. This is their 2004 album, their 9th studio album from IQ, Dark Matter. I absolutely adore this album. It's a go-to album for me. Not a week has gone by since I got it that I haven't been listening to it. Maybe it might happen now because it's out of the playlist and I got other stuff I have to listen to, but so good. This is number 1 for me. My favorite album in the 21st century so far. So, there you go. That's it. That was rather lengthy, but I think it was well worth it to discuss some of what I think is the best stuff that's come out in rock in the last 20, 21, 22 years. So we will reiterate it. So this is my top 25 favorite rock albums released in the 21st century. And I'm just going to reiterate them from top to bottom, and then I'll give you the few honorable mentions I have. So, Dark Matter from IQ, number 1. Number 2, Crash of the Crown from Styx. Number 3, self-titled album by The Who, or you could call this Detour album. There's a detour right there. Some people call it that. From The Who, number 3. Number 4, Wobblers Hinterland. Number 5, Endless Wire from The Who. Number 6 is Rush in Rio, or Rocking in Rio if you prefer, live from 2004. That's number 4. Number 6, sorry. Number 7, Snakes and Arrows from Rush. Number 8, The Seventh House from IQ. Number 9, Dwellers of the Deep from Wobbler. Number 10, Clockwork Angels from Rush. Number 11, The Zealot Gene from Jethro Tull. Number 12 is Red Planet from Rick Wakeman. Big comeback for him for me. The next one up is Fly From Here from Yes. That's number 13. Number 14, A Long Day, A Good Night from Fate's Warning. Number 15, Light Bulb Sun from Porcupine Tree. Number 16, sorry, I'm a little ahead of myself there. Number 16, Royal Decree from Flower Kings. Number 17 is Changes from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I love it. Number 18 is May or My from Echolan. Number 19 is This Is the Sound from Cellar Dweller. Number 20 is The Mission from Styx. Number 21 is number 21 is Say You Will from Fleetwood Mac. Number 22 is A Matter of Life and Death from Iron Maiden. Number 23 is Nothing Is Easy, live at the Isle of Wight from Jethro Tull, live album. Number 24, Redeemer of Souls from Judas Priest. Number 25, Breakout from Miley Cyrus. Number 26, Black Ice from AC/DC. Number 27, Onward from Hawkwind. Number 28, You're the One from Paul Simons, sorry. Number 29 is The Yum Yum Tree from Osric's Tentacles. And number 30, My Favorite Headache from Geddy Lee. And there you have it. Those are my top 30 albums released this century, going from 2000 to 2022. We will do a video on 2023 for what's new for my favorite albums for this year. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other albums that didn't quite make it. Just give you a brief reason why they didn't make it. Okay, you've got Black Star from David Bowie. I like this album. This was the album that kind of edged out Geddy Lee. I put Geddy Lee in instead of this album. I just like that one just a tiny bit more. Visionary from Eloy. It's an album that I haven't listened to enough, and even though I liked it, I just didn't think I liked it enough to knock out the bottom one there. You're the One. Oh, I did put that in, sorry, I scratched it out. Vapor Trails was the other one from Rush that easily could have made this list if I had no 3 or less rule. And so with Clockwork Angels, Snakes and Arrows, and Rockin' in Rio all getting on, it was the odd man out, but it's still a great album. Love Grenade from Ted Nugent. This is a guy that I've only just begun to really start to listen to his stuff. I kind of stayed away from him because I thought he was a bit too quirky for me, but the music is great, so I had to give him some attention here. The Power to Believe from King Crimson. This is an album I've only listened to a couple times, and King Crimson's one of those really hard to penetrate bands, so even though I liked the album, I don't think I liked it enough to warrant putting it up there just yet. The other Judas Priest album that I considered for this list as well was Firepower, another good album. I just think The Redeemer of Souls is a better album, and this album I haven't listened to enough really to give it that much of attention. And then the other one was, of course, Styx's Cyclorama, for the same reasons that the other two albums I listened to more, and I just haven't listened to it enough to really give it a fair shake here. So there you have it. Those are my honorable mentions. There's my list. I hope you'll enjoy this video. If you have your own list of the albums you really enjoy, please put them in the list below, because I'm still exploring this century's music a lot, and there may be like I discovered the King Gizzard and the Wizard and the Lizard Wizard from putting this together, and had listened to it like 2 or 3 times already. So if there's stuff that you think that I would like and that you think people should know about, please put it in the comment section below. If you like the video, please like it. If you want me to do more things like this, also let me know that as well. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell if you want to get more of this kind of content. And we will see you later. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.